Hi, I'm Jen Rogers. We're talking about the importance of small businesses today and the opportunities and challenges that they face right now. Joining me is Mastercard's Global Head of Small and Medium Enterprises, Mark Barnett. Mark, thank you so much for taking time to do this. I want to dive right in and talk about what Mastercard is doing for small businesses and really why you're focusing on them.
Well, Jen, first of all, it's great to be here. I think the answer is pretty obvious when I give you some World Bank data. There are 400 million small businesses in the world. They're 50% of world GDP, and they employ over 50% of the world's population. So not only are they incredibly important to the economy of the world, also the societies of the world, providing employment. And every big business, they're over 90% of all businesses, and every big business started one day as a small business. So I think those are kind of obvious reasons. Also, in my old role at Mastercard, I used to look after our operations in Europe. Whenever I spoke to a senior politician, a finance minister, central banker, everybody wants to know about SMEs because they're the heartbeat of the economy. And I think the heartbeat of society as well. So those are the reasons. Quite often we focus on consumers and we focus on big businesses and we forget about this segment in the middle that's so important to the world economy. So that's why we're doing it.
I think everybody also knows about small businesses that it is not for the faint of heart. It's a hard job. So what are the challenges and what are you hearing from small businesses that they are facing right now in terms of their concerns?
Sure. The first thing I'd say is there's no such thing as a small business or a single kind of small business. You might be one person or you might have a couple of hundred employees, and you might be a restaurateur, a retailer, or have a small manufacturing plant. Your needs are going to be very different across those. But when we do research, we do quite a lot of research, actually go and speak to small businesses, three topics come to the surface every time. The first one is access to capital. The second one is helping small businesses on the digital journey. And the final one is protection against cyber threat. They've kind of always been in that order, although the cyber one is coming up the list a little bit more now. You can probably understand why in an uncertain world. So shall I break those?
I'd love to go through them all.
Okay, so access to capital is, there's two sides to that. The first is the biggest barrier to growth of small businesses is that they can't get the capital to grow their businesses. And that's because the banks are unsure how to lend to them. Their models are more geared towards consumers or to big businesses than they are towards SMEs. And that's an area where we work with our banking partners to try and help them. The other side of that coin is really small businesses actually have a very limited amount of working capital. They're worried about do they have enough money at the end of the month to pay their 3 or 4 employees. And in that case, a credit line would be extremely helpful for them and take away some of the angst surrounding that. So that's the access to capital piece. The second area is every business is now a digital business.
Right.
I mean, we have some data that shows that in 2019, of card accepting businesses, because that's the data we can see, less than 30% were digital only. And today it's 45% are digital only. So they don't have no physical presence whatsoever. But those that do have a physical presence, the other 55% starting up, have to be completely omni-channel. They have to be able to operate in the physical and the digital world. And that's complicated. And especially if you've got a lot of systems around there, you've got a payroll system, you've got a bank app, you've got something that manages your customers, and you're having to swivel between all these different technologies all the time. Really, they need that simplified, because what a small business really wants to do is focus on what it does.
The business.
Yes. If you're a hairdresser, you want to do hair. If you're a restaurateur, you want to serve beautiful food. And that digital journey part is trying to help simplify all the stuff that isn't what the business really wants to do, because they want to run their business and they want to grow their business. The final one is cyber. This is, it's an issue for companies as big as us. We get attacked all the time. It's an issue for the smallest of businesses. Now, again, we did some research, and just under half, 46% of businesses said they'd suffered, small businesses said they'd suffered a cyber attack in the last year. And this is the really scary one, that of those that had, 1 in 5 had closed the business or gone bankrupt in the year afterwards.
Wow.
Now, they might have closed their business for other reasons,
right.
Okay, but still, it's a big number and it's a scary number. And again, that's somewhere where we think we can help the whole ecosystem of business and commerce with fraud, because we see everything that's happening.
I mean, those numbers are, pretty staggering on both of those last parts, the business closing, but also the digital only. And I think that makes me think about consumers, because consumer habits are changing as well right now.
Yep.
So when you think of the consumer equation part of this, what do small businesses need to be thinking and doing in the next 2 to 3 years to adapt to how consumers are changing?
Okay. I mean, first thing I'd say is, during the pandemic, we saw a switch of people buying things. And then after that, it's been people buying experiences. And that has remained really, really strong. So if you're in the experience sector, if you're a restaurateur, you're in a very good place. That's not to say other sectors are in a bad place, but we switched to experiences. The next thing I think is obvious. You need a completely seamless and smooth digital checkout experience. Gen Z, they won't stay with you throughout a clunky checkout experience. So I think globally, if we look right across the planet, we're seeing a massive rise in what we would call middle class. And that means people, so 4 billion people now are categorized by various organizations, categorized as middle class. Now, it might not be what we call that. So that's a daily income of between $12 and $120 a day. Mm-hmm. But having said that, those people now have money to spend on things other than basic necessities. And that means that the first place they're going to go is small businesses near them to spend on discretionary items. So I think that's one. There's one other thing which we call value makes values, and we're seeing a lot of consumers turning towards, because of their concern about sustainability, turning towards upcycled and recycled goods and produce and clothes and the like. And I think that's another big trend as well.
You really do have a good sense of what's happening around the globe and in lots of different small businesses. And as you said, there's not just one that's out there. But when you look at the landscape, what are you optimistic about right now for small businesses as a whole?
Look, despite a complicated geopolitical world, our economies are still growing. Small businesses continue to be the heartbeat of that economy, and technologies that would have previously only been available to corporations are now becoming available to small businesses to help them manage their businesses better. I'm talking about the software packages. 80% of American small businesses look at a software package every day. And it might be a very specific one for the hairdresser, one for the nail bar, one for the coffee shop, or it might be a general piece of business software. Those are now readily available to almost every sector you can think of for small businesses. That takes a lot of pain out of their lives. I think AI and AI assistants, agentic AI assistants, are going to be a big part of making life easier for these businesses and potentially take costs out of their business, making more of their revenue and profits available to them. So I'm optimistic about lots of things. We do see the growth of SMEs as really quite astounding at the moment. So we should feel optimistic about that too.
This has been so fascinating, Mark. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us about what you guys are doing.
Thanks very much, Jen.